Oh, in the last little video, we talked a little bit about where IO psychology kind of sprouted from. Now that we've kind of talked about how applied applications of psychology have emerged, now let's kind of talk more specifically about what happened with industrial organizational psychology. So, first off, IO psychology has radically shifted the workforce. We can see the picture on the left would be an office in the mid 1800s, and it was much more of a social realm, okay? It was a recognition that, you exist as a human being. The modern office, more black and white photo, more modern idea of the office is one of efficiency, cold, sterile efficiency, rather than an environment that we can enjoy, okay? So it's a big change in the way we think. So we find that some of the earliest parts of IO psychology were intimately tied to business schools. Of course, the Wharton School is a business school, and it was technically not a business school. It was a school of professional management, okay? So not a surprise, it's clearly related to IO work, okay? Some of the earliest workers were people in the IO field were like Frederick Taylor. We'll come back to scientific management later, but he said, every job has a perfect way to complete it, and the goal of an IO psychologist is to discover the perfect way to complete a goal and therefore increase efficiency, okay? And so his most famous study actually involved shoveling coal at a power plant. And so all of the coal was being shoveled, manually by human beings. And what he discovered by doing a series of studies, he manipulated the shape of the shovel and the capacity of the shovel to maximize productivity, because it turned out if the shovel was too small, you were bending over too often. And if it was too large, the load was too heavy and you were getting tired too quickly. And so he found just the perfect size shovel and he doubled productivity in coal shoveling productivity just by changing the shape of the shovel, okay? Some other people, such as Walter Dill Scott, one of the original Wilhelm Wundt students, he starts to do research on advertising, which picks up later once John Watson gets involved with it. Okay. Hugo Munsterberg, who took over at Harvard University, took over the position of William James, took over William James's position at Harvard. He writes, and I said earlier, Hugo Munsterberg is considered a father of psychology, a father of IO psychology, but he's also the father of clinical psychology, the father of forensic psychology. I mean, it depends on who you ask, of course. But he really was emphasizing issues, right? Look at this. In 1911, he cautioned all the questions of the mind like fatigue, monotony. So you can't isolate the job from the worker. You have to recognize that a fatigued worker or a monotonous job is going to lead to performance problems. Even if Frederick Taylor has made the ideal shovel, if you don't consider the human being as well, good luck. And that's the O side. Okay? Yerkes was brought on board to start doing selection testing. Selection testing is, again, going to be a huge part of IO psychology. But Yerkes was brought on to do selection testing for the military during World War I. And so he created the Army Alpha and the Army Beta, different mental ability tests to select which prospective soldiers should not be in the military because they are so dumb that they should not hold a gun. And then more specifically, for those applicants, or those recruits rather, that were of higher standard, which officer position should they be in, okay? And so there's a lot of different people here at the Carnegie Technical Institute, created a precursor to what is the strong interest inventory, which is used in selection tests. The strong interest inventory basically asks you a bunch of questions and then tries to match up what kinds of jobs that would match with your interests and things that you enjoy. Okay, So clearly, look at that, 10 IO psychologists in 1917, which is just about at the beginning of World War One, and by 1929 there was 50. So it was a slow-moving building thing. But the most influential study in IO psychology was done at the Hawthorne Electric Plant. And you're going to have to catch the readings to get all of the details on this. But this study, essentially, they were trying to increase productivity. And again, you look at the details. I don't remember the details. But they came in, they said, oh, let's modify the lighting. Okay, because the lighting is kind of dim, and if we kind of make the lighting better, and what they found was productivity went up. Oh my God, that's awesome. So the IO psychologists, they cash their checks, they walk out, they leave, productivity came back down. What the heck? They brought in the psychologists again, and then they gave them maybe stools to sit on or something, and productivity went up, and then the IO psychologists cashed their paycheck again, and they left, and productivity went down. And it was like, and what they discovered was that the very act of being watched is what was increasing productivity. It was nothing to do with the manipulations that they were doing. A worker that knows they're being watched. So does this imply we should have video cameras in our factories? I bet you they do. All right. So what kinds of things are more recent? The fairness of selection tests. And by fairness, I also mean legality of selection tests, all right? Or validity of selection tests, which we'll definitely talk more about. Things about the cognitive revolution, that is to say, more than just worker behaviors, but the worker itself, okay? Work-family issues have come up, especially post-COVID. We find that there's a lot of hybrid work. Should we work remotely or in person? There's a lot more emphasis on creating effective teams, all right? Organizational justice, how to provide feedback. We'll talk about 360-degree feedback, but that is you don't evaluate the effectiveness of your organization just by having a manager give feedback to an employee. Instead, it's just like you need to get feedback from your customers, from your managers, from your distributors to your suppliers. They all have to give you feedback. You have to get feedback from every single direction in the organization. So some of the biggest highlights, APA was founded in 1892. Job satisfaction research, we're going to find a huge lot of work on job satisfaction. The APA not only was founded, but a separate division was created in 1946 just for IO psychology. The General Aptitude Test Battery, we're going to talk about different selection devices, but clearly one that would be important for many, many job selections. The Civil Rights Act, okay, that's a huge part of it. Different theories in motivational theories like expectancy theory, which is going to be a huge part of understanding worker motivation. But you can see the SIOP comes into place, the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. The ONET, the Occupational Network, is updated. So all kinds of fascinating things have happened in this field. So we'll talk more about them as we go.